MMA fans? I am Jason Burgos for SureDog.com, and this is a moment I have been looking forward to for some time. You might call it a bucket list moment in terms of MMA interviews for me. He's a former one championship lightweight champion. He's one of the leaders at Powerhouse MMA gym Team Lakay, and he will be facing Eddie Alvarez in a massive fight at one's Dawn of Heroes event on August 2nd in his home country of the Philippines. He is the Landslide. He is Eduard Folayang. Edward, thank you so much for giving me some valuable time tonight, just about a week or so before your big fight next week.
Yeah, thank you, Jason, for the time also, and thank you for all the fans out there who is watching right now.
It's honor and pleasure to talk to you. First, I have a whole bunch of questions for you. I wanted to go back to the Shinya Aoki fight. This is your first fight since that bout at a new era in March. You had beaten him previously and originally won the title from him back in 2016, defending his grappling really good in that fight. This time around in March, he got revenge. He got the submission win on the first round and took the title you had just recently won back not that long ago. Was that defeat against Shinya Aoki a difficult fight for you to get past afterwards? Was it a tough loss to take?
Yeah, of course, it's a tough loss. I have a good game plan for him that time, but it's he's a better fighter on that night. I wasn't able to implement my game plan, and things didn't go right. It's really tough, but that's life, you know. It's already done. What's important now is to face another challenge that is coming ahead.
Now, I want to ask about that in game plan and stuff like that. Did he do anything different the second time compared to the first time that made like the grappling different? Did you happen to just maybe make a mistake? Like, was there something different that happened in March that ended up you losing the second time you fought him?
I think I'm looking forward to that takedown, but he was able to get it. Uh, he was able to get it when I was able to throw that idol kick.
Mm.
So it favors him, you know. That's the thing that I'm waiting in that moment when he will be going for the takedown. But unfortunately, he was able to get it and was able to apply his arm triangle. And I wasn't able to defend it well.
Aoki ended up handpicking Christian Lee to be the first person to defend the title against. A lot of people, fans, and people in the media in the West or in the East were surprised by that, but Lee ended up actually beating him. First, were you surprised that Christian Lee actually did beat him? And also, did you feel that you should have been the person that had fought him next since you had been the champion twice and since you had beaten him before?
Oh well, that's the privilege of being a champion. He was able to pick someone whom he knows is a younger lion, and that he wants to test his skills while the lion is young. But it ended up in the favor of Christian. So, but for me, I think. It's his choice, and there's a lot of stronger opponents in the lightweight division, but they are all in the Grand Prix. So I think that's one of the things that that hinders him to pick for much bigger opponents.
Were you surprised that Christian Lee beat him, or did you think that was a possibility?
Um, yeah, especially when Christian Lee was able to defend that
Mm-hmm.
armbar. I'm surprised also. because Shinya is really good on the ground, but of course Christian is also a good
Mhm.
grappler, so he was able to get out on that, and he was able to knock Shinya out. So it's really a surprise also, knowing that Shinya is much bigger and much more
Mhm.
inexperienced.
For this big fight coming up next week for you, which could be looked at as maybe like the biggest fight of your career, because Eddie Alvarez is a name known all over the world, having fought in the UFC, having been a UFC champion. Even though he's getting older, he's on the later end of his career. First, how much of Eddie's career have you followed over the years? Were you a fan of Eddie Alvarez over the years when he fought in Japan, when he fought in Bellator, and into the UFC? Did you follow Eddie Alvarez at all over the years?
Well, I heard about him years ago. Some years ago, he was the champion in Bellator, and when I watch his fight, I appreciate his toughness. He can be able to come back after some bad rounds. He can be able to come back and get the
Mm-hmm.
win. And then when he became the champion in UFC, when he beats Dos Anjos,
Mm-hmm.
that's the time that wow, this guy is really one of the the artists that I'm looking into. But uh, it never came into my mind that I will be facing him in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's happening. So wow, it's really a good opportunity and an honor to be facing him here in Manila next week.
After Alvarez surprisingly lost in his debut in one championship, there were many people that started to wonder maybe he was past his best years. He wasn't the fighter he used to be anymore. What do you think? Do you feel Eddie Alvarez is just as dangerous and as good as that guy that fought Rafael Dos Anjos that you remember? And are you excited to fight and test yourself against a guy like him, or maybe he's not that guy that he used to be anymore?
Oh well, in mixed martial arts, everything happens. You can be the best of yourself in one night, and on the other night the other opponent is much have a better night for you. So you cannot really just say because he lost on that fight that his his good years are already done. It's mixed martial arts. Every single mistake can cost you so much. So I think uh, he's still one of those artists that I'm looking into.
Were you, because Nasiyukin very well? He's been in one championship for a long time, and maybe some people in the West aren't familiar with him. When Eddie fought him, did you think that was a dangerous fight for Eddie? And when Eddie lost, it wasn't too much of a surprise, or did you expect Eddie Alvarez to come in because he's such a good fighter that you were a little surprised that he lost his first fight with one
Oh,
championship?
for me, I think it's 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I already fought Timothy, and he's really dangerous guy. And I also watch Eddie's fight, so it's 50-50. I know that Timothy is a dangerous guy, and same with Eddie. But Timothy had a better night that time.
So going into this fight, break it down for me. Like, talk to me about like this fight with Eddie Alvarez from your perspective. Where do you feel you have advantages over Eddie Alvarez, and where are the areas technically that you feel you have to be careful with him, that he is still very dangerous and you have to avoid?
Uh, for me, I think it will be an stand-up fight. Eddie is uh, he uses his punching
Mm-hmm.
more. He punches a lot, so that's the area that I prepared well. And of course, for me, I prepare my all my arsenal, my kicks, my striking. Probably. It depends on how we can be able to deliver a good game plan on that fight. We are both stand-up fighters, so um, it will for sure it will go on the stand-up
Hmm.
way.
I mean, you are a very exciting fighter. He's known as being a very exciting fighter. Do you
Yeah.
expect it to be a very exciting, wild, crazy kind of fight? Are you expecting it to be fireworks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of things probably will be shown that time, spinning or kicks, punches. Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of creativity that will be happening that night.
Now, many fans here in the West don't fully appreciate the talent that's in one championship. So when they see someone like Eddie go over to one championship or any promotion from the UFC, they expect them to dominate and do very well. Now, he lost. Do you, in that kind of situation when these big UFC names go to other promotions, everybody thinks they're going to win, do you take pride in representing one championship in moments like that to prove to fans that may be watching one championship for the first time from this side of the world, to show them the talent in one championship is just as good as the UFC's?
Yeah, of course. We just don't represent ourselves, but the place where we are in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need to give the best of my performance that night, and this is one of the opportunities where I can be able to show to the other side what we have here in the eastern part of the world.
You will be fighting in Manila, in the Mall of Asia, a place you have fought many, many times for one championship, especially. You are without a doubt the one of the maybe the most well-known and established mixed martial arts fighter from your country and representing the Philippines. Do you feel like a weight, like a responsibility when you're fighting at home and you're representing your homeland? Is it a extra weight? Is it a pressure, or is it a pressure that you like to be able to fight at home, Mall of Asia in Manila?
Yeah, it's a motivation for me. It's more on the pressure wherein it pushes you to do your best on your preparations and to give the best that you can in the fight. So it's more on the
Do
motivation.
you expect to have many, many friends and family there? Or like, how many people do you think you'll
Yeah, of
have
course.
there?
There's a lot. Right now, a lot of people are now asking for tickets because for sure it will be crowded. So every event that we are in Manila, the stadium is full. So I think for sure a lot of my countrymen will be going and will be expecting this night to be one of the three in Manila.
And like I mentioned, you've fought there so many times in this particular arena so many times, and I was looking back, and it must be somewhere in 7, 8 times now. Every time it goes up until this fight, does it? Are there more and more people you have to tell? Like, no, I don't have any more tickets. I only have this. Does it get harder every time now? Like, is it hard now? You got to tell a lot of
Yeah,
people no now.
yeah. Because it's the event is really known
Mm-hmm.
now, and a lot of people are being educated on mixed martial arts. So they can just easily access it in a lot of ways in social media, in one application, in the television. So there's a lot of ways wherein they are being educated and they can be able to connect on on the arts fighters who are competing.
You are 35 years old. You will be 36 around November, I believe. Age always seems to set in and affect lighter weight fighters much, quicker than say a heavyweights. You get heavyweights that fight well after 40 and stuff like that. Do you see yourself continuing on and fighting for many, many more years, maybe into your 40s, or do you have a plan in mind set, like a certain point that okay, around this point of my life, fighting will end for me? Have you thought about those things or not at all?
Uh, that's why I like Manny Pacquiao so much because he can still beat younger opponents in his 40s. I always look to Manny. What I'm doing is there's a lot of benefits on it. I can be able to protect my health and make sure that I'm I'm influencing some other athletes to to be involved in this kind of
Mhm.
sport.
And I'm glad you brought up Manny Pacquiao because I plan to ask about him. I'll jump to that and ask about him now. First, before I ask the other question, what did you think of his performance against Keith Thurman this past week? A man 10 years younger, undefeated. He beats him, looks amazing at 40 years old. What did you think of that? That was unbelievable.
Yeah, 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 his speed and his work ethic is undeniable. He go there and he performs very well at that age. So I think one of the things that I admire to him is his work ethic. He really took care of himself well, and he prepares well. Even if there's a lot of ads that is being
Mhm.
there. He never he just his focus is very nice.
Mhm.
He just want to go there and give the best performance of his lifetime. And yeah, he's a very good motivation to all the people who says you can punch at 40.
I'm sure it's an interesting position for you, like because like Manny, you're I'm sure a big famous person in your star and internationally around the world. In terms of sports and combat sports, people know you from Philippines. Is it a weird thing? Is it tough at times to be this recognized and people to look to you and look at you as a role model in your country and with all that responsibility that comes to do you think about following in his footsteps to maybe get into politics and become a senator like him? Is that anything you've ever thought about?
Uh, well, I think I have a different path. It's just that he's gifted and he can be able to mix a lot of works out. And but for me, I think I have a different path to
Mm.
take, and um, if I can be able to understand that, then there's only one money, and
Yeah.
I have a different life to do.
Mm.
Probably in some instance we are both the same, but money is money. He had been gifted to mix things out. He can be able to work it out, but for me, I think I have a different calling to pursue.
Now, talk to me about Team Lakay, and because a lot of people are starting to know them much more, especially if they're starting to follow one championship. How did Team Lakay come about? How did it start? And how has it turned into one of the major forces in one championship with fighters like yourself and Kevin Belgnon leading the way? How did it all get to this point?
Oh well, it started when our coach, Coach Mark, is the first one to compete in mixed martial arts, and then he became a champion in one of the local promotions here in the Philippines.
Mm.
And then we are just there cornering him, and after that, we decided to form a team. It's called Team Lakay, where most of the athletes are have the background of wushu.
Mm.
So we have been able to form it in 2006, and we never thought it will go this big. We just focus on how we can be able to be better because we know that we are already watching UFC and Pride at the time, and we see great athletes perform, and we dream that someday we can be able also to perform in that kind of arena, and now it's getting there. Probably it's the hard work and the dedication that we had put into work that pushes us to be in this position right now.
Now, the interesting thing about, because here in the U.S., Canada, you have major teams like American Kickboxing Academy, American Top Team, and Jackson Wink. But for Team Lakay, when watching One Championship fights, you guys all kind of wear the same shorts. But you don't see that here too much, like a team unity like that. What is the reasoning behind like Team Lakay, the fighters often wearing the same specific shorts, the red shorts? Is that like a tradition in the Philippines? Is it a tradition just from Team Lakay? What's kind of the background behind that?
Yeah, I think it became a tradition because we often use that when we are already competing in the amateur
Mm.
called wushu. It's wushu. We do that, and it's one of the things that they can be able to recognize our team. It's about wearing that shirt, so it's a good symbolism,
Mm-hmm.
that when you wear that shorts, you really need to give your best to perform every time on the ring.
And also, I'm sure it sends a message to the opponent: they better bring their best because they're facing Team Lakay. It's not a game.
Yeah, yeah. For Sam.
All right, so last question. I appreciate your time. Whenever I do a video interview, I like to end it on asking about the fighters. Learning a little bit more about them, so the fans can learn a little bit more about them and learn something they don't know about them. For example, like what are some of the things you love to do that has nothing to do with fighting? I mean, I know you were a teacher at one time, and educating either children or other fighters is a big deal. But are there other things in life that you were a big fan of? Other sports or movies or music. Like, what are some of the things you love to do when you're not doing anything that has to do with fighting?
um, Watching movies,
Mm-hmm.
I really like to watch movies, especially movies that have a good story.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Do you watch a lot of Western movies, or it's more Asian movies?
yeah, yeah, more on Western movies.
Really? Give me three of your favorite movies from the West. Are you a big Marvel fan? Do you like Avengers?
Yeah, yeah, I like Avengers,
Really?
and
Yes.
yeah,
Who's your favorite Avenger?
Iron Man.
What else? Do you like Star Wars or any of the what are some other movies you really love?
The One of the movies that I like is an old movie, The Last of the Mohicans.
Oh yes, I love that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Where that movie happened
yeah.
in
That
upstate New York. I live in New York, so that movie is based
wow.
on the same Indians, Native Americans that lived here. Okay, all right, that's a good
Yeah,
choice.
yeah.
A good choice. What about music? Are you into Western music or not really?
Yeah, country music.
Really, Western country
Yeah, yeah,
music.
country
Wow.
music.
Who
Yeah.
is your favorite country artist here in America?
Alan Jackson.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Good to know.